This is the Lucy Gernon Show, a raw, unfiltered and candid podcast where ambitious women in leadership and entrepreneurship come each week for inspiration, a good old laugh and real relatable stories. Each week we'll be diving into life hacks, leadership tips and the hilarious side of current affairs and being a woman in female leadership in the business world. You can expect a mix of laugh out loud conversations, real talk with top business minds and solo episodes with yours truly that blend psychology, storytelling with practical tools and actionable strategies to support you to succeed in leadership and in life. So if you're an ambitious woman looking to grow, laugh and get a little bit more confident along the way, you are definitely in the right place. Hello everyone and welcome to the Lucy Gernon Show. It feels so crazy to be saying that, and today I'm sitting here with an amazing guest to kick off the new show. I was just telling her that I was on Instagram doing my usual doom scrolling last weekend, and it was Christmas party season as we were recording this now. It's just before Christmas, and Enya posted the most hilarious reel. It's the most relatable thing I've ever seen in my life for that you have been to Christmas parties. So I reached out and she's agreed to come on the show. So today I am joined by the wonderful Enya Martin. Welcome to the show, Enya.
Hey Lucy, thanks for having me.
Oh my God, right. I was just saying before she came on, right? I have my inhaler here in case I laugh because I'm the kind of person that when I start laughing, I get wheezy. So I'm here with her today and we have the inhaler ready. So we're good to go. So Enya, do you want to just share a little bit about who you are for my listeners who are living under a rock or maybe who aren't from Ireland and don't know who you are?
Yeah, so I'm from Dublin originally, grew up here all my life, still living here, and I grew up in like a working class area, so I don't know what it is about working class people, or maybe it's just the family I grew up in or the road I grew up on, but yeah, there was just an awful lot of wit around me growing up, and I was raised watching comedies, Faulty Towers, John Cleese, a lot of his stuff, Only Fools and Horses. My mum and dad had a great sense of humour. And my dad's side of the family would have been, into singing, Irish dancing, performing in pantos. I spent a lot of Christmases going to see my cousin dancing in a panto, and she has her own dance school now. And I'm actually going to a panto this evening actually to see Alan Hughes in his panto, and that's where I started watching pantomimes when I was only like 7 or 8. So it never terrified me to stand up in front of a crowd. Just hand me a script, I'll do that. I was never afraid of public speaking whatsoever. But like to make people to stand up and like tell jokes, that did terrify me. But that never crossed my mind up until I was like in my early 20s. Like never stand up, never crossed my mind. So I was in and out a lot of drama workshops growing up in school, summer projects and stuff like that. But again, never once crossed my mind like I'm going to do this for a living. I just thought it was a hobby. It was just something I enjoyed. And, I started coming out of my shell in secondary school. I was really, really shy and introverted in primary school. I run into people now who I went to primary school with, and they're like, I can't believe you're doing what you're doing. Like, because you were like a mouse in school, But I just thought I had to go to college as well, like everybody else, and never really liked the idea of working for other people because I'm like just crap at taking direction. I can't follow. I can't follow instructions whatsoever. So I always felt very intimidated going into workplaces, and I was like, what can I work as? What can I do for myself? Like I did always aspire to work for myself, but to do what, that was the big question. And then I went to college anyway. I did advertising and marketing communications in Tala IT. Now my first choice was creative digital media. And I didn't get that because I didn't get like a C1 in higher level English. That's a language I'm fluent in. So I'm a lot better at English now. I wrote a book, so obviously I redeemed myself. Yeah, I learned how to use a comma. But I ended up going to college, and it was the last 2 years of college. It was a 4-year degree. Now I finished it, but it was the last 2 years that Facebook video started coming on the scene, and you could probably count on one hand the amount of people that were making videos on social media in this country. Like it was just unheard of.
When was that then? Yeah, like how long ago was that, would you say?
Posted my first video in probably early 2014, and I was posted on my personal Facebook page. And I was like toying with the idea for ages. I was working in Extravision at this stage. I remember Extravision, it was in college, just wanted to earn a bit of a wage to go out on the weekends and stuff. And I said, I'm going to go for it. Like, I want to kind of like show people that, I made my friends laugh a lot and I was quite witty. And then I started thinking, right, let's try capitalize on this, and I made the page Gives a Laugh. Like the videos got a great response to my personal page. So I thought to myself, right, let's start opening it up now, like to the rest of the country.
And how old were you
Um,
then? How old were you when you started this? About?
I was about 2014. I was about 22.
Wow. And
So
like, tell me, because I'm so curious to hear this, because putting yourself out there on social media, like, is a really big deal for a lot of people. And obviously, you probably didn't know then what you know now about it. You were doing it for, thinking it was something that would be something that you wanted to do. Did you get any backlash when you started from your friends and family and all? Like, who did you think she is, or was it all supportive?
yeah, I think at the start, especially when I was just uploading to my personal page, because I wanted to test the waters, and it was still terrifying, even though it was just my friends and family seeing it, distant friends and family as well. But it was still terrifying. Like, I think some people thought it was a phase. Like, I think some people thought, yeah, she's gonna eventually like grow out, that she'll get bored of doing them. But I did deal with a little bit of that, like kind of. I never forget my boyfriend's mates, like they're buzzers and stuff like that. But I think they were a bit like, oh,
Who's
like they were kind of slagging him about me, and I think they thought it was a phase. And I think they look at me now and how, like, I wouldn't say I have financial freedom, but I can go into a restaurant and I have to look at the price on the menu, and like they're the ones who are still working for other people now, and just yeah, I'm incredibly proud of myself for just not listening to those opinions, and just I just kept going for it. Like, I was very very green back then. I hadn't got a clue. I didn't know what way this was going to go. But what I was sure of is I'm not going to give up. I know eventually there's going to be something over the horizon. There's going to be a big opportunity if I just keep going and not listen to the opinions of other people. Because I remember actually when I thought about starting like the public page, someone had said to me, okay, don't be getting ahead of yourself there now. And like that was someone that was one of my friends. And that's just a reflection of how they'd see the situation if they were in it. And that's like them talking to themselves. And I was like, I don't care what people think of me. Like, I honestly don't care. Like, this is something I enjoy. This is something I actually feel that I'm good at. And I got better with time through repetition. Then eventually that was 2014. And then in 2016, 2017, I got contacted by a comedy club because a lot of people were like, would you ever do stand up? And what I was good at was I was good at the punchlines in the videos, because a lot of people would be commenting and they'd be laughing and they'd be like, oh, when she says this, or, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, like I can probably write jokes, and then still would rather, shit in my hands and clap than stand on stage and try and make people laugh. Like, give me a script. That's no problem. I'll read a script. Um, but you just feel very, very vulnerable when at least you just close the laptop. Because back then I was using a laptop. I was using a DSLR camera that you use for photography.
Mm.
And I had to set it up on a tripod. I would film in black and white because I was still a bit insecure on camera. I was in a landscape. Like, it was back before phones could do everything. So what had happened then was I got roped into doing 5 minutes on stage, and I was doing an internship at this stage while still working in extra vision. And when I had left my college course, because I was still under the illusion that I don't think I'm going to make money off it yet. So I was still juggling part-time jobs with an internship. So if I did get a full-time job in the internship, out of the internship, I could leave extra vision. Like, I wanted my fingers in a lot of pies just for backup.
Mm.
So what happened was I done the 5 minutes of stand up. I was absolutely terrified, but I remember standing side stage. It was in Whelan's, and they had a slot just for first timers, so the crowd were a bit easier on you because they knew it was your first time. I remember just standing side stage and like, just it was weird. I just felt like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I didn't feel as nervous as I thought I was going to feel, and I was like, no, like this feels natural. This feels good. And yeah, after that, then the rest is history. Like, I eventually got better with time, and they didn't keep me on in the internship, so I had to make a decision then. Extravision ended up closing down. I went into liquidation, and
Bring them
I was
back.
like,
So sad.
I know where DVDs went to die, but like it was literally like a DVD cemetery, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't get kept on at the internship, and at that stage now the videos were starting to go really viral, and I wasn't just doing the Shanto character because I originally hid behind characters at the start, so people weren't judging me; they were judging the characters.
Yeah.
I know I said I didn't care what people thought of me, but I was still not myself. I was like playing a character, because I wanted to still test the waters. I didn't want to be myself. Yeah, I felt more comfortable being a character. People responded well to that. I started doing a mammy character then. I started doing, if Mean Girls was set in Dublin, if the Titanic was set in Dublin, I was like dubbed over videos with a Dublin accent and stuff. Like, they did really well. And it was around the time when the Mean Girls one was made that went really viral. And I just thought to myself, I'm wasted sitting at this desk, this internship. It was before I was let go, and I was just doing spreadsheets and Excel and stuff. And, although it was something I was interested in, I still felt like I have this whole other thing going on in the background that I actually really enjoy and I'm really passionate about. And I'm sitting here and I feel wasted, I feel trapped at this desk. So I thought it was a sign that they didn't keep me on. And I was like, I'm not going to look for another job. At that stage, I was put in touch with an agency who basically, that's when kind of like collaborations started coming onto the scene. So like, Coca-Cola would give you X amount of money to make a video for them and put it on your page and stuff. And I remember going with an agency and I got my first paid job. I was in the internship at this stage. And I was like, right, I might only get one every 3 or 4 months, but you're already used to surviving on 100 quid a week. Like, can't get any worse than
Yeah,
this.
yeah. Were you still living at home at this stage?
Yeah, still living at home. And I was very lucky I had that, and again, I wasn't used to having a lot of money. So 100 quid, I was able to stretch that because it's all I knew, So I left and then I was going to go into the Dole and they were like, well, you're still making money through, these video collaborations or whatever you call it. So you can't go on the Dole. And they were like, but we do have this other thing set up by Enterprise Ireland where if for self-employed people, we give you a supplement every week. And, after a certain amount of months, 25% is knocked off it. And, until eventually it's only 50% of it. But it kept me going and it kept me afloat. And eventually then the page started growing, I started getting more video work. And then that's when I started doing stand-up. I done my 5 minutes and my manager slipped into my DMs and said, how would you feel about doing a little tour around Dublin? Going to all the different theatres. I'd never wrote a show in my life. I didn't even know how to go about it. So I would just write sketches because that's all I knew how to do at that time. And then I started testing the waters, like doing 10 minutes at the start of those shows and then jumping into the sketches. Then eventually it would become 20 minutes, then half an hour. And now I'm on my fourth solo stand-up tour. I think it is. Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, honestly, this is like, oh my God, like it's so incredible. You're only in your 20s, right? I'm not just saying that. That is incredible for any 20-year-old to get up and go and stand up and, do comedy and put yourself out there on social media. I'm so curious where did that confidence come from? Because it is unusual for someone at that age to be that,
I always felt like I said, I was very introverted in school, but I remember when I was in second class, this was the first experience I had talking of like standing up in front of an audience. We were doing the play Puss in Boots, and a girl, she was actually an African student, and she was doing the narrator for the play, but she had to go back to Africa like to visit her family at Christmas. So I was like, I was playing like a cow or something, like a non-speaking role, like, and she had to go back to Africa. So my teacher was like, okay, who are we going to give the narrator job to? And I don't know what she saw in me, but I think I auditioned for it. And I don't know what she saw in me, but she was like, Enya, you get up and read the script and let's see how you get on. Like, this was in the rehearsals. And I got that role. So that was the first time I stood up in front of it. And I actually felt so comfortable doing it. Like, I actually really enjoyed it. And it was always there, like, ask me to go over and make small talk with a group of people I don't know, petrifying.
Yeah.
Give me a script and go up and talk in front of people. Like, I'll never stand there and think they're judging me, they're thinking this, they're thinking it's something that just feels so natural to me. Something I felt good at. The way the way some people are just like really, really good at maths, it just naturally comes to them. Or, like when you see people with kids, like, or nurses or people who are just naturally drawn towards those roles. They're just really, really good with people. That was like me. That was like my calling. And again, it was just something I enjoyed. I never thought I'd be able to make an income out of it, but I loved doing it. And it was something, I just felt like it was a skill that I had, that I was born, or it was something I was meant to do. And it was just until I was put in the right environment, or I was not handed something, like until the right opportunity came along, and that was social media. Because Oh, you remember hearing that saying, like, if you're waiting for someone to knock on your door, you'll be waiting a long time. So, knock on your own door. And that's why I started the Giz a Laugh page, because I was like, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm not going to be sending in tapes to RTE, in a pile of 100 tapes that mine's probably never going to even be seen. This is how I'm going to attract attention. And it took a while to get kind of good opportunities over, but I never stopped. And don't get me wrong, I was petrified when I posted my first public video, because I was afraid of backlash. And you've dreamed of something for so long, and you get your hopes up for something that, like, people are going to love this, and then imagine if they didn't. But thankfully it was met with like 80 to 90% positivity.
Amazing. And it's continued ever since. And I'm so curious to know then, right? Obviously you're super successful now. You're going on tour again. You have a new tour coming out as well, don't you? In around the time this episode is out, actually, I think. Yeah. Do you want to share about your tour?
So it's officially launching on the 6th of March in Vicar Street, but I'll be doing warm-up shows January and February. And yeah, we're going all around Ireland again. I actually went to Australia last year and did the Sydney Comedy Festival, and I'm going back there again this year.
Oh my God, how cool.
I don't know what dates this will be released, but I think it might be announced by then. I'm not too sure. But I'll be doing Sydney, and I'll be doing other cities. I only did Sydney last year, but I'll be coming to other cities that are very heavily populated with Irish. So yeah, that's
bringing the joy. And your mom must be so proud, is she? We see her on your Instagram and that.
She's so proud, but she's at a stage now where I think, like, she's starting not getting used to it, but, like, I love when I bring her to my shows and how people, like, react to her, and she loves it too. Like, because she grew up with, loads of siblings, and, it's hard to get a look in when you're from a big family, so she wouldn't have gotten a whole lot of attention. And back then, like, in the 60s, 70s, like, your parents could do what they want to you. There was no, like, backlash or anything. There was no such thing as Childline or Tusslet, like, so she got a few hidings, and she, like, parents in this day and age, like, they mollycoddle their kids because they're not seen as, like, nuisances, and, like, I've learned a lot from even my upbringing, how I'll treat my kids. But when I see her, I'm like, I love when she gets that attention from my fans, because I know when she was growing up, she never got that from her parents,
Oh, that is so lovely to share that with your ma as well. So nice. And I'm wondering as well, like you said that, everything has been met, like 80 to 90%, it was all good at the start. Surely you've had some flops. Like, what's the worst gig or the worst experience you've ever had where you literally wanted to crawl into a hole and just die? Or have you?
Well, what I will say is, any of my own shows where people actually pay to just come see me, um, I've never had a bad show. Like, now, sometimes you might get a drunk in an audience, or you can get people that are a bit rowdy, but they're coming to see you because, and that was the great thing about the page. I had built my audience already through the social media page, Giz a Laugh, and people were coming to see me because they already enjoyed that sense of humour. But when you're starting out in the clubs, you're trying to build an audience, and it happens way slower, and it takes a lot of graft. So, like, sometimes I think comedians that took the traditional route from stage and then moved on to screen were probably a little bit, I don't know, envious of how, like, you bypassed all that, basically. But this is the way the world is going now,
Yeah, you were smart. You leveraged what was there rather than, like, taking such a long time to get there, right?
Yeah, and then it was great, but I often do, like, charity gigs, or I'm on lineups, at comedy festivals, and there's a lot of people in the audience who may not have heard of you, or have, and they just haven't been to see you yet, or they might not be familiar with your page. Like, there was probably 2 gigs where I was like, oh my God. But you don't take it seriously, because the stuff that you're saying on that stage is tried and tested. You've done it numerous times. It gets huge laughs. So when you stand up in front of an audience and they're not familiar with you, and you're just met with silence when you do those punchlines, it is a bit off-putting, but at the same time, you don't take it personally. You're like, no, these have something against me. Or, like, there was 2 gigs. There was one I did, it was a charity gig. It was actually in Ballymun, and I always do well with my own shows in Ballymun, and it's probably, like, my target audience out there, working class area. I was doing a charity show, and I was on a lineup, and everyone was going down really well. And I went down, and, like, every punchline was just met with crickets. I was like, did these just all, like, collectively agree before I came out, like, let's just make her feel like shit? So that was that was like probably one of the worst ones. And then there was another one which was actually last summer. I was down in Mayo, and it was a lineup, and it was like it was basically a lineup to launch a comedy festival that was happening a couple of weeks later, you know. So it was like the opening gala, and it was just a whole Mayo crowd, right? So a lot of rural folk, you know, probably don't watch me online, and you know, just farm and stuff like that. That's
Yeah,
that's
they
their
didn't get
hobby.
it.
They didn't get it whatsoever, and it was really uncomfortable. But I think like, yeah, those two gigs were not humbling, but it's like, right, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea,
And
you
that's it.
know?
Like, I think that's the thing. You have to find your people, don't you? Like, you can't be liked by everyone. And like you said, like your material is tried and tested. So I think that's a really good lesson, even for people to take away, is that like I work a lot with women in leadership and entrepreneurship, and confidence can be a huge thing. And they feel like sometimes imposter syndrome, and like they're not the expert, or if they say something, they get asked a question and they don't know the answer, they take it maybe that they're not the expert. But really, I think what we can learn from that is like, it's really just about the audience, right? And not everybody is for you. And it doesn't mean anything about you. It's always about them. It's always them. It's their fault.
Yeah, like, and the environment is a big one. Like, I've often done music festivals where there's a comedy tent, and it's just shockingly set up. Like, it's not designed for comedy. Like, there's a band playing like 10 feet away from you. Like, you can't build momentum or like build up a story with a huge punchline in an environment like that. And it's sometimes you turn up to these things and you're just like, right, it is what it is. But I'm in a position now where I can fortunately turn down those gigs, and I'm like, oh, I've paid my dues. I don't need to do these anymore. And then there is some music festivals that do cater to the artist, and they do put, you know, there is a good environment. Like Electric Picnic is very well put together for the comedy tent. And there was another one, I think it was the Independence Festival. This was going back a few years ago, before COVID even. It was like a barn down in the Independence Festival in Cork, and it was like the corner of a barn, and like people were sitting on a concrete, okay,
Oh,
and
no.
these are students, half of them are probably out of their head, and you were walking up there, and you've only about a year or two experience under your belt, so you only have a small set, 20 minutes. This was the only gig I ever cried after. Like, it was I was like, people were getting up and walking out, but it wasn't even that they were like saying she's crap or what the hell. It just wasn't designed for comedy. It's like people were walking in there expecting this live at the Apollo-esque type stage or whatever, and it's just everything was designed to just make sure you had a shit gig. So things like that now I can fortunately afford to turn down. But you were saying like there about confidence. Like a lot of people will come to me, you know, friends, like I'm best man at a wedding and stuff, and I'm absolutely shitting about the speech. I can't wait for the day I get married. Like that's just like, or the day that I'm a maid of honor. Like I will like, I'll just bask in that role. Like I couldn't wait. I'd be dying to do a speech at a wedding, you know. But what I would say is a lot of people think they all want me to fail. Like they're just imagining the worst. They're gonna laugh at me. They're gonna think this. I think it would say more about you as a person if you were sitting there thinking, I hope they make a bollocks of this. Like I can't wait for this to trip up. Like I can't wait for this to be shit. Like nobody thinks like that. When I go to a wedding, you know, most of the time I'm thinking to myself, I'm not expecting, you know, a Kevin Bridges type of speech. Like sometimes you are pleasantly surprised. Like you want the person to do well. Like you want them to make people laugh. Like you're commending them for standing up there and speaking when that's not something that they would normally do, you know, and they're not expecting like this, yeah, this big comedy show. And I think that's one of the main things I focus on, and that's why I am doing what I'm doing. People want you to do well. You know,
Yeah.
they're not thinking unless they really dislike you as a person. Like
Yeah,
I
and
don't know.
I think as well, though, I think a big mistake, best advice I ever got about public speaking on the stage, and it doesn't sound like it's something you struggle with because you said you don't really care what people think, but really you did a little bit at the start because you hid behind your characters. But in general, you're well able to put yourself out there. Whereas I would not have been like that. I cared so much about what people thought that I like changed who I was as a person. I actually had a twitch, like I'd have a twitch if I had to talk. It was like horrendous. But the best advice I got, I remember when I started my business about 5 years ago, when I started to kind of have to put myself out there, was if you're making it all about your audience and you're thinking about your audience and you want to make them laugh or you want to add value to them and you take yourself out of it, well, then it becomes irrelevant because most people are thinking, oh my God, what if they think this about me and what if they do that to me? When really, if you make it about the audience, and I always think about like one person I'm speaking to, even if there's hundreds in a room, I think for me that really, really helps. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. And another tip I try and do is like fake it till you make it. That's one tip I give people as well. Like you try to come across as the most confident person in the room. Like when I stand up there, I want people to envy how confident I am. Like I'd never be able to do what she does. Like I get asked that all the time. Like, how do you do it? I'd never be able to do that. But I honestly, like when I walk out on stage, it's like an alter ego. Like
Yeah.
I'm a very introverted person, and sometimes people run into me and they're like, "I'm actually really quiet in person," and I'm like, "Yeah, if I was to carry on like that 24/7, like I'd be in a psychiatric
Yeah.
unit. Like that
Not
is
well.
just mentally exhausting." Like,
Yeah.
and I find it hard to sleep after gigs because your adrenaline is so high, you know. But I think faking the confidence does massively help. Like I stand backstage and I'm pacing back and forth, and I'm thinking I have to do the deep breaths and stuff like that. And when you walk out and the lights are on you and the audience are looking at you, it's like, okay, it's Enya 2 now. I'm Enya 1 behind stage. It's Enya 2 now.
Love
And
that.
it's just, yeah, it's like, just imagine you're stepping into someone else's shoes. Honestly, it's, and I think like a lot of people say to like, imagine the audience in their underwear. Like, I don't think I've ever had to use that, but people who are going up, it's like being in a driving test, you know, when you're sitting in the front of a car and you are like trying to be like super alert, like you're watching everything, and to the point where you almost make mistakes because you're just being too alert. When
100%.
you're going on, yeah, when you're going on stage and you're trying to remember your speech and you're trying to not worry about what the audience think, like sometimes you can trip yourself up, but it's because you're focusing on too much. Like just be yourself, you know,
Yeah.
just be yourself and just believe in yourself. And if you think about it, like in the grand scheme of things, I used to think 5 minutes of comedy felt like a lifetime. Like I remember doing my first 5 minutes. How the hell am I going to do 5 minutes? And now I'm doing an hour, and it's funny because you know before my shows I'm like, oh, it's only an hour. Like, and it is. It's an hour out of your day. And if you're getting up and you're doing a wedding speech or you're doing a presentation, it's like 20 minutes out of your day. Like that's all it is. And how quickly 20 minutes flies by, especially when you're up there and you're in the zone and you're focusing on it. Everything outside doesn't matter anymore, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And I think, I think you made a really good point there about fake and confidence. I hate when people are, I actually hate, I hear people say, you don't fake it till you make it, like try this instead. Like, I think you have to fake it because you don't become that person unless you actually model that person. And I remember I was told before to like borrow confidence from someone else. So, if you really like somebody,
That's
or
a
you
good
like,
one.
isn't it like, so like look at someone, say Enya, for example, like how would Anya show up in this situation? Or maybe I can just borrow a bit of her. And then eventually when you do it enough times that you're like, right, you really like this person at work, you might kind of model them a little bit. It's like your characters back in the early days, and you're Enya 1, you're Enya 2. It just gives you that little tiny bit of protection. But eventually then you find your own way, don't you? Like you find then yourself within the whole thing.
Yeah, like if I was to stand up on stage and talk about something I've no experience in, like for example, my partner is a chef. If I was sent up onto the stage and was told to like talk in depth about like a recipe or something like that, I'd crumble. Like, you know, I'd be like, I don't know what to say. And, you know, and faking it till you make it is obviously, if it's something that you're passionate about, if you're going to be getting up and speaking and doing a presentation, it's something that you've done a lot of research on, you know. But I think that, what was the question again,
I
Lucy?
don't know. I've ADHD, babes. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
I was,
I zero clue what I asked you. What did I ask you?
um,
We were talking about confidence, faking it. Oh yeah, I was asking you, um, yeah, fake it till you make it, borrowing confidence, and then you started talking about the chef situation. We're there.
yeah. So, like, I can totally get that. Like, if you're just thrown up at the last minute to talk about something you know nothing about, I'd crumble, you know. But what I will say is, when you were talking about when I was talking about fake it till you make it, so I'm also a personal trainer, right? And it's something that had a lot of interest in. It's something I'm actually really passionate about, and I have a separate page like Coach Enya, and I love like educating women and people, and you know men as well in general, about how to get yourself in shape and stuff like that. But it's all about like habits and stuff, and fake it till you make it applies to this as well, because in order for you to get to a point where you've toned arms, you go to the gym for a living, you enjoy it, and you eat well 80% of the time, when you start doing that, you have to literally, embody the person that you want to be. because that's how they get there. You have to literally, practice those habits because that's how you get there. If you just constantly wake up every day and think, I don't want to go to the gym today, I don't want to eat well, you're never going to get to that destination. So you have to live like someone who is already there,
Yeah, I love
and
that. Love that. I remember being told that before, something similar around, and it's something I still do myself with loads of things, is like making decisions from that. So if would a healthy person do this? What would a healthy person do if you want to be healthy? And it's taken me, I'm going to the gym now consistently for a year, which is the longest time I have ever been like actually disciplined, because I made a decision. I was like, right, first of all, I'm usually all or nothing. So I'm like 5 days a week, like, Weight Watchers, starving myself, or I'm ordering takeaways 3 nights of the week and I'm not doing anything, right? And it's not sustainable. And then I remember I was, I can't remember who said it to me. I can't remember where I heard it, but someone said it and they were like, exactly what you just said around making decisions from, your future self. I always say, like, your future self is calling you. Like, if you want to be fit, it's because you actually want to be fit. And you do have to start making decisions from who you want to be in the future and not who you are now, because it's not just going to happen, is it? Like, it's not going to happen in anything.
yeah, and I deal with clients all the time who say, I wasn't motivated this week, so I didn't really go to the gym. And I'm like, major disclaimer here. You're going to get in the best shape of your life and you're still going to feel like you don't want to go to the gym some days. You're still going to feel like, I want to order takeaway. I'm not in the humor of cooking. Like, you're still going to feel like that even when you get into the best shape of your life. That's never going to go away. But the people who actually do succeed do the work regardless of how they feel,
Yeah.
and that's saying as well, like, what would the best version of myself do in this situation? And I love that saying, because visualization is huge as well. I visualize myself performing in Vicar Street for the first time. I visualize myself eventually making a good income from coaching. I visualize myself, supporting this comedian, doing this show, doing that show. But it's not going to be handed to you. You have to put
No.
yourself out there. You have to fail a couple of times, but failure is only when you completely give up, and I kept going, like.
Yeah. It's funny, like when you're saying about the visualization, like it's something that is like, I've studied a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of business people, and I've been fortunate to have some fantastic business mentors and coaches as well from the US, UK, and all of that. And I've studied them all, and they all have that in common. It's all like, I do it myself: visualization, manifestation techniques, taking care of your health, taking care of your body, actually allowing yourself to experience joy and happiness, because that's where all the good stuff comes. Like, but yet so many people are stuck in their heads, stuck wanting to be a better version of themselves. And then, like, I was that person. I was like pity party. I was victim mode for so many years, like just stuck, until I realized that I actually had the power to change everything. And thank God it did, but it took time. So what would you say to people who maybe are listening, who, I hear it all the time as well as a coach. I work with women leaders around, I want more time for exercise. I want to go to the gym, or I want confidence to speak on the stage. They want these things. And everyone's desires are their desires. You want it for a fucking reason. It's because you're meant to do this thing. How can people break through that barrier, do you think?
Well, I used to think like that as well. I want to do this, I want to do that. Okay, well, what are you willing to get there? And also, the system that you set up to get there is incredibly important, because we'll just use a client who wants to lose weight, for example. They have 3 kids, a full-time job, and they're a single parent. And I want to do an hour of cardio a day. Okay, you won't physically have the time to do that. You just want to get to this destination as quick as possible, okay? And that ain't gonna happen. We have to be realistic here. What can you sustain? So let's set up a good system that you can stick to. Okay, it might be a slow way, but you're going to get there in the end, and you're going to be able to sustain it, and that's what you're going to be able to stick to. So I think, and a lot, like, I deal with so many clients as well that just have really low self-esteem, and they make one hiccup and they think, that's it, I've blown it. And how I succeeded was, anytime I used to fall down, I used to give up as well. If I overate or something like that. But what I would do is, no, I'm just going to get back up and I'm going to continue as normal till eventually, it matters what you do most of the time. And most of the time, you are going to be, eating well. Most of the time, you're going to be exercising. In the grand scheme of things, like, you probably F up very few times, and it's not as dramatic as you make it out to be. But I think a lot of women, and this was a huge thing for me as well, is they don't realize the power of self-talk. Like, they're well able to say, I'm not going to be able to do this, I'm not going to be able to do that. But you can also flip the script and be like, no, I will do this. And I'm actually going to get there. And like, look how well I'm doing today. I have 3 kids, I'm a single parent, and full-time job, and I meal prepped last night, and now I'm able to stay on track today. And it's not beating themselves up. And sometimes you as a coach, you're their only cheerleader in their life. Like,
Yeah.
their friends don't give a shit. Their friends are trying to twist their arm every weekend to go out with the drink. Their partner might not be that supportive either. Like, oh, back on your diet again and wonder how long you're going to last. Like, that's not going to help either.
Yeah.
They're already criticizing themselves, and then they have people around them doing it too. So having strong inner dialogue, and I don't think people have, like, I know I'm repeating myself here, but they're well able to talk negatively about themselves, but they don't realize you can also talk positively about yourself as well. And it's just believing in yourself,
Yeah.
honestly. Like, I can do this. Not I might be able to. No, I can, and I will.
Yeah, I'm huge into mindset as well. It's one of the things that I coach women on all the time, and I have a technique I call the rants to power technique that might be useful for anyone that's landing with this. I was that person beating myself up for years. I hated myself. I hated how I looked. I hated how I sounded. I all of those things, and I used to listen to people like you and Enya, and I'd be going, yeah, it's easy for them just believe in yourself, but I don't believe in myself, or I don't feel good enough. But this is a tool that I developed. I went for so much therapy. I was like, I need to create my own stuff that's actually going to work better. So I kind of merged neuroscience, positive psychology, and therapy into this little tool I call Rants to Power. And RANTS stands for repetitive automatic negative thoughts, which are what you're talking about, that I'm not whatever enough. And we all have that. And then you flip it to what I call a power statement, which is positive, optimistic words energetically repeated, POWER. And that's your affirmation, right? So it's literally, I'm fat, I'm ugly, becomes I am healthy and I take care of my body. And you basically write a list of all your rants. You kind of become an observer of your thoughts, write them all down on one side of the page. On the other side, then you force yourself to flip it to something positive. You can use ChatGPT if you can't think about it. Like, there's always ways to flip things. And then what you do to actually rewire the mind is it's fucking work. Sorry about my language, but it's work, which is why most people don't do it. They don't do it because it takes work. You have to repeat those statements every single day until you actually believe them. And it's been proven in neuroscience with the neuroplasticity in our brains that you can rewire it. But it's like grooves in a forest. Like, if you keep beating that negative path, you're just going to ingrain those beliefs more and more. So, nobody's coming to rescue you. You have to put in the work, and you have to do it for yourself, and you have to do it for whoever those people are around you.
Well, you know what? Our brains are wired to go at what's easy. Like, it's trying to protect us. So all of a sudden, when you're doing something that's unfamiliar, our brain is like, oh no, we don't like this. Nah, nah, let's just go back to what we were doing before. That's
Even if it's
easy.
bad
Yeah,
for you. Yeah, even if it's bad, right?
lying on the couch, ordering a takeaway instead of cooking the food that you have to spend a fortune on, up in Tesco to start getting on track. And now just order takeaway. Like, that's easy to do, but what's worth having doesn't come easy, and people don't want to put the work in. That's why they're always like trying to fast track it, taking shortcuts. And you know what? It never lasts in the long term. And I remember when I was doing my fitness photo shoot going back last year, and I was doing a lot of cardio because I was had to be really, really strict with my food, because that's what it took. And I signed up for that. And no matter how many times I complained, I signed up for this. But there was plenty of times where I was put in a situation where I could have just helped myself to a lot of finger food at a party. I could have just skipped cardio sessions. But the one mantra I had in my mind is, I don't want to show up to this studio on the day of this photo shoot and look at myself in the mirror and be like, I wonder how I would have looked if I didn't overindulge with that finger food, if I didn't skip that cardio session. I hate having regrets. I wonder what would have happened if I had posted that video. Like, where would I be now if I had made that Giza Laugh page? Like, I hate regrets. So it's having that, like, you want to be proud of yourself. And when I stood in that studio on that day of my fitness photo shoot, I looked in the mirror and I'm like, you left no stone left unturned. Like, you put your all into this, like, you honor the promises that you make to yourself, because you just build a whole lot more self-confidence when you actually see something true. Like, how many more times are you going to let yourself down?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Oh my God, I love that. And I remember seeing you in that photo shoot. You looked amazing, actually. So I just want to change tack a little bit, right? I want to talk a little bit about the pressure that comes with fame. Like, do you consider yourself famous? Like, would you say I'm famous? Do you say that, like, or is that something that people say? I don't know.
I still feel like, yeah, like, I feel like I have a bit of a profile, but I still feel like I could go to Mayo and walk around and no one would know who I was. Like I think like in
Yeah,
Dublin, like I'm a lot more recognised in Dublin. And then like if you go somewhere where a lot of Dubs would go on holidays, like, you know, Lanzarote or something like that. But I still think I haven't reached a stage where I'm a household name in Ireland, which is a goal. And it's not for fame, but it's like
it's
it
your
means it's gonna add longevity to my career, you know?
yeah, and you're determined as well, aren't you? That's one thing I can really see is coming
Yeah.
through in spades about you. You're like, if you set your mind to something, I think people better watch out. And I feel like, yeah, I feel like you're only going to go. I can't wait to keep following you. But I'm wondering as well, like, you know, obviously as a comedian, right? You do have your Enya 2 persona, right? And we all have that. How do you, like, say if you're having a bad day, if you have your period or something really shitty has happened, like, how do you still, how can you still show up and be funny? Or is that hard for you?
Yeah, like don't be fooled that like, you know, I do have like this bulletproof mindset and stuff. Like I do have days where I am human and I am hard on myself and you should be doing more. And like yeah, I'm sure probably people look at me and think, where does she find the time to do it all? Like some days still think I'm not doing enough. Like I need to be posting more. I need to be taking on more clients. I need to be, you know, have my face on TV or in radio more to sell more tickets. Like there's some days where I feel like the world's caving in on me, and then I have other days where I'm on top of the world. Like there is a lot of ups and downs, and you know, you try to enjoy the ups as much as possible because just as quickly, you know, the next day, oh, we're not selling tickets for this show. We need to keep pushing it. You know, it's you can just be humbled very quickly, and there is a lot of, and don't get me wrong, I might be very confident on stage, but my biggest fear is that I hope people left that show feeling like it was worth the money, it was worth getting the babysitter, it was worth the taxi fare into town, I'd come see her again. Like that's all I want people to feel, is that they enjoyed it, you know, and that they'll come back and see me again. But you also have that inner critic, that wasn't your best work tonight. You know, remember that joke that usually gets a laugh? They didn't laugh that loud tonight. Like it's that it can be like a devil on a shoulder, you know, and it's that kind of sometimes when I get certain opportunities, it's like that imposter syndrome, like or even when I sell out a show, like who's coming to see me? Like why would or when someone asks me for a picture out in a pub, like I'm like, you want a picture with me? Like sometimes it's still hard to believe, like you don't feel worthy enough, or you know, sometimes you might be living on another planet and you actually are more known than you think you are, you know.
I think it's like, you know, we're all human at the end of the day. And that's, you know, I think sometimes people think because if people are in the public eye, they first of all have all their shit together. It's perfect all the time, like you see, you know, on social media. They know exactly what they're doing. But I think anyone that I've ever met that's famous, they're just normal people, like just normal with struggles and challenges like everyone else. But I think what's different is, you know, I love what you're saying is that you're putting yourself out there and you've done that since you were in your 20s. And I think that is, you know, I remember someone saying to me when I started my business as well, is it's always the people, was it Brene Brown? So she didn't say it to me because I don't know her, but I read a book. And she was talking about, is it that Theodore Roosevelt speech, which is about, it's only people who are not in the arena that will ever kind of cast stones at you. Because anyone who's ever been in that arena and knows what it's like to actually step out there vulnerable, raw, and do like put yourself out there, you're never going to get that from somebody. So those people do not pay your bills. Those people are not there for that, right?
There's two quotes. So one of them was, "You're never going to get criticized by someone who's doing better than you,"
Yeah.
and then another one was, don't take criticism for a person you'd never go to for advice." You know, so I I obviously probably now in fairness, I am lucky that I don't get a lot of backlash. Like when I post videos, like I'm not heavily trolled, and most of the people who are trolls, they're middle-aged men who aren't attractive and probably still live in their ma's box bedroom, like
Yeah.
you know, and they're just like, incredibly insecure when they see a woman. Like they still think it's a man's world, and they see a female coming up in the ranks, making a name for herself, you know, building her own career, making a bit of money, and that intimidates them to the point where they feel incredibly insecure that they have to leave a comment. Funny how if she was performing in my garden, I closed the curtains, or you call this comedy and stuff. Like I don't take it to heart. I'm like, God love you. Like I actually feel sorry for them. I'm like, how miserable would you have to be to take time out of your day to actually type that out and think, yeah, that's okay to send to someone. Like that's I am at a stage now where I just laugh and I just block them. Like I don't even engage, because you know what happens sometimes when you do engage with them, they do it for a rise or else they do it for attention. And next of all, the table spins. Oh no, like I actually do think you are very funny. Sorry, I'm just having a really bad day. Like they try to bait you, if you know what I mean, like rage bait you. And I've learned just to not engage, just block them, and that's it.
What's the weirdest comment or DM that you've ever got? And have you ever got any inappropriate photographs?
No, I haven't gotten any
You're
inappropriate
not there yet. The
photographs.
dick pics.
But you know what? Something actually bizarre happened. I had a show in the Ambassador Theatre just there a few days ago, last weekend, and um, my manager had to drive me home because I got a taxi in and I was planning on getting a taxi home. There was someone outside who was demanding to meet me, and they hadn't got a ticket. It was a man, like with a hood, and it was, yeah, it was really strange. And they were like, "No, I want to meet her and stuff." So my manager was like, "Yeah, you're not going out there." So I was like, "Oh my god, I have my first stalker. I've made it."
Oh my God,
No,
you've
but
made it. Your Kardashian vibes now, Enya.
do you know what? Like I said, 90% of the trolls are men, but sometimes when you get it from women, it actually hurts a bit more because
Yeah.
you're like, really, like, you know, I think influencers get a lot of flack from, like, I consider myself just a comedian or a content creator. You know, I don't try and sell people things, um, or I don't get brought to like massive events and stuff like that. And I find they get a lot of trolling from women because that's their demographic. Now I know my demographic is women, but it's, you know, women who want to have a bit of crack. Like I get away with saying a whole lot more than an influencer would. You know, they have to be like proper PC, and I can kind of like play on the toe the line a bit, and you know, obviously not say anything discriminating, but people follow me because of my sense of humor, and you know, I can have a bit of crack, and the people who follow me know how to have a bit of crack. But sometimes you see people following influencers and they are very like
Yeah,
middle of
it's
the line.
terrible,
That's,
isn't it? I
yeah,
think it's
yeah.
terrible. With humor, you can kind of get away with a lot more. And I'd love to know as well, like, I am the worst at telling jokes, right? I'm so bad. I remember being on holidays in Marbella with the girls, with two of my friends who were really, really funny. You know, with these, probably like you, I'd imagine, with your friends, but maybe you're not like this. They're always up for the crack. They're always telling stories, and they're the life and soul, and they carry the group, right? And we were in Marbella, and I remember the girls had been, myself and my friend, who were a little bit kind of more reserved or whatever. We were sitting there, and then they were like, "Have you got any stories, girls?" And the two of us just literally went like this. Like we were just so put on the spot. I have no, what's your advice for people like me who are just like if someone said to me, tell a joke, I have nothing. Zero.
Like there's people I cross paths with, where I'm like, you're wasted not being on stage. Like, you know, they don't realize how funny they are without even trying. And now there is a skill writing jokes. Like, I think some people are gifted in the sense that they could walk up with a mic and just start taking the piss out of people. Like, you don't have to write jokes for that, you know, you're
Yeah.
just riffing. Like, that's what they would call an MC. Um, but there's often sometimes I sit down and chat to people, you know, whether it's a friend of a friend on a night out or something like that or whatever else. And they're telling me a story and they tell it so well. I'm like, actually want to rob that for stage because that's a hilarious story, you know. And they just have a certain way with words. But I think it's just something that comes naturally to you. Like if you were to tell a funny story to a comedian, and what my skill would be is I could like alter it and change the wording around to make it sound funnier. I'd be like, okay, let's exaggerate the story, and you know, let's make it relatable. Like when I'm talking about my boyfriend on stage, everyone has been in a relationship, so that's relatable, you know. So if you're trying to make people laugh, it has to be relatable. Like if you're talking about a private joke between you and your friends, nobody else in the audience is going to be able to relate to that. But if you're like, we all have a friend who does this, we all have a friend who's tight with their money, so then you go into the story then about your friend being tight with money, you know, so it
Start
has to
off
be
with the
relatable.
relatability. Oh, I love that. That's a really good
Mm.
tip. Really good tip for anyone that's there. So just before we finish up, Annie, I've loved getting to see this other side to you. I'm seeing a lot, you know, obviously we only ever see your character, I suppose, on stage and on social media. I've been really surprised by how you're so smart, you're so humble. And I think I love the ambition. I can feel it, and I'm excited to see where you go with it. But what do you think most surprises people when they meet you? Like, what's the most surprising part of your personality, do you think?
Like I'm so boring. Like when you look at me on my page or on stage, you probably think, oh, I'd say she's gas cracked to go out. I'd say she's this. Like I save all that energy for stage. Like when I come off stage, like I said earlier on, like I am zapped. Now, don't get me wrong. If I'm in an environment where I know you well and we're very comfortable and we just start having to crack, I can be one of the funniest persons in the room, like, you know. But I do have to be very comfortable around you for me to come out of my shell. And if I don't know you and I don't know what way to take you, and you know, I'm still trying to kind of test the waters with you. Like sometimes when you're in a room, like at a party or something like that, like a friend's function, and you know, you're surrounded by all their work friends who you don't know, like you're kind of like trying to scope them out, and
Yeah.
you know, like oh look, there's kids are laughing on. You're really quiet because you don't know them, and you're like they're gonna get this impression of me that like I'm just not funny, like you know, and it's not like that's how I ended up making the page, is because I just used to crack my friends up so much all the time, and I was so witty and I'd be so quick and I'd know exactly how to like, you know, make a holy show of them in front of other people and stuff, and I'd humble them and I'd be like, yeah, you're slagging me about this, what about this and that, and if I don't know you, I can't be that way with you, you know. So when a stranger comes up to me in a shopping centre or something like that, like I was only in Miffy Valley yesterday, and the amount of people who are on the shop floor walking, you're like, oh, hey, Enya, and it still feels a bit bizarre
I
because you're
know,
looking
I
at them
can
like, I
imagine.
don't know you, but you know me. It's really awkward. And you're like, oh, hey, you have to act like you know them, you know? They're like, I know, I follow you. You probably don't know who I am, but I'm really shy. Like, I'm really, really shy. Like, a lot of people probably think that's how I am all the time when I'm on stage, and I'm not. Unless I'm just in a really comfortable environment
Yeah.
and
It's
I know
like
you,
part of
you
your
know?
personality, but you've got so many other parts to it. And I as well, like what makes you laugh? Like what do you watch? Actually, what do you watch? Like I'm into like true crime and all that kind of stuff, but my husband wants me to watch more comedy. What kind of things do you watch? What makes you laugh?
So people are always like, "Oh, who's your favorite comic and stuff like that?" Like I never watched
You're like
stand up comedy when I
myself.
was growing up.
Hello.
Like I don't watch another comic and think, how can I be like them? Because every comic has their own niche, and you know they're their own individual person. But I do look at other comics for inspiration, you know. So like I love Kevin Bridges, and I do find it hard, even though like I find him very very funny. I find it hard to watch other comics because it's like a musician watching a band, like, oh, I know how they set that guitar up, I know how they got that chord, I know why they did it this way. Like when you're watching a comedian, this is called a callback joke. So they'll set it up like about 20 minutes beforehand, and then they'll come back to it then 20 minutes later, and the whole audience will erupt with laughter, like, oh, see how I did that? I know they're going to do that. And like he's at the planting that seed there, so he's going to, and then he brings it back around 20 minutes later, and oh, I know where he's going with this joke, he's going to do this. You start to learn the tricks of the trade, and you're over analysing it, and it's like you can't enjoy it. Like I've been so, yeah, so, and then you're comparing yourself with like, how did they think of that joke? That's such a good joke.
I
Like
know.
I'd love if I had thought of
Go back to your
that.
Faulty Towers days. Oh my God, I was raised in Faulty Towers. That was just the best back in the day. Love that.
Yeah, so I was like a sponge when I was younger. Like I did love watching all that stuff, and you know, a lot of slapstick comedy and stuff, and I always had funny bones, but I was like incredibly shy as a kid. It wasn't until secondary school I started coming out of my shell. But I was a bit of a weirdo, like I was a bit of a weird child, like, but I had friends, and only if you knew me, you knew how funny I was. But in terms of like, you know, even stuff I do in my downtime, sometimes I watch Netflix. I have a very short attention span. I find it hard to read books and stuff, but I do find like going for a walk, going to my local coffee shop, or going to the gym is just a breakaway from everything online or you know, work related.
Yeah, fabulous. So you're just a normal person, what I'm hearing, like everyone else. So, Enya,
Yeah.
listen, you've been an amazing guest on the show. I'm bringing in something that I'm going to test with you. Let's see how we go. It's 5 and 90 rapid fire round. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions. We've got 90 seconds to get into them. How's that sound?
Yeah, let's try it.
Okay. You can do one word, one sentence. We have 90 seconds. Okay. The first one is, what's one thing you wish more women would stop apologizing for?
I'm maneuvering around you if you're in the women's toilets. Just sorry.
What's one thing you love to do for fun that might surprise people?
I know. I love playing games. I love playing like quizzes and stuff. It's similar to this. I love like doing bingo, pub quizzes with the friends. Yeah,
Very
stuff like
good.
that.
What's a life hack you wish more people knew? Or something that you're like, oh my God, if I knew this sooner.
Practice gratitude, waking up in the morning and just picking three things you're grateful for, and you'll be in a bit of a better mood than you were beforehand.
Amazing. And what do success, balance, and happiness mean to you?
You definitely need time to just, like I said, be Enya one. Like and Enya two, number two version is your career version, but you need to make time for yourself, your family and friends. It can't all be about work.
Love that. And finally, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice. This is there's loads. I would just say if it was down to social media and you wanted to make content, post a video. Don't be a carbon copy of anybody else. Don't care what anybody else thinks. People will love you for you, and your vibe attracts your tribe.
Oh, love that. Amazing. Enya, thank you so much for being a fabulous first guest on the new rebranded show. I'm so excited to go back and listen to this interview. Enya, guys, is touring everywhere, all around Ireland, even out to Australia. And Enya, if people want to find out more details about you, they can follow you on Giz a Laugh. We will add your show notes in our show, or your links in the show notes. Where else can people find you? Where do you want people to go?
TikTok, Instagram,
She's
Facebook
everywhere.
is a laugh, and then my coaching page. I'm just on Instagram with my coaching page. It's Coach Enya.
Coach Enya, fantastic. All right, listen, thank you so much for being an amazing guest on the show, guys. We will see you again next week, same time, same place. Bye for now.